لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله ما لنا رب سوى لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The late Allama Tabatabai, discussing the nature of miracles, says that there is a need for material cause for every material occurrence or every material existence. And as I read for you, he says that whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to do something in the material world, he uses also material means and material process. But maybe this material process is not very familiar to us. It's not what normally happens, but still it's a material process. And then he says, this is page 77, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to let a prophet have, for example, a miracle, there are two possibilities. One is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does that thing without any material cause, just by willing that. This is one possibility, one probability. أن يتوسل تعالى إليه من غير سبب مادي وعلة طبيعية بل بمجرد الإرادة وحدها. So one possibility is to say that Allah just wills and then this material thing is there. And this is something that Allah doesn't accept, but as a possibility. The second is to say that there is a material cause which is hidden from us, unknown to us, not familiar to us, but still there is a material cause. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that, and when He wants to let that material thing happen, He uses that unfamiliar material cause instead of the familiar material cause. And these are two possibilities. And Allama Tabatabai prefers the second one. And he says that, of course, he has some philosophical reason for that everything material must happen with the material conditions fulfilled. But also he uses the apparent meaning of some verses. Of course, these verses are not expressly saying these ideas, but apparently, the outward meaning, al-ma'na zahir, is this. For example, he says, when Allah says, قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا, it means that there is a measure, there is a plan, it is a design for everything, and it's impossible to have it without that. But you can have different routes, different procedures, but they are all under Allah's design of the world, which everything must happen with certain measure. It's not just Allah wills and it happens. So he says that فَالْآيَةَ تَدُلُّ عَلَىٰ أَنَّهُ تَعَالَىٰ جَعَلَ بَيْنَ الْأَشْيَاءِ جَمِيعَهَا ارْتِبَاطَاتٍ وَاتِّصَالَاتٍ. Between all things there are links and connections. لَهُ أَنْ يَبْلُغَ إِلَىٰ كُلِّ مَا يُرِيدُ مِنْ أَيِّ وَجْهٍ شَاءَ. He can reach whatever he wants through these material things. وَلَيْسَ هَذَا نَفْيًا لِلْإِلِّيَّةِ. It's not that he bypasses causality. It's just that he has lots of choices. One choice is the one which is familiar to us. He has also other choices. But at the end, there is causality. ففي الوجود علية وارتباط حقيقي بين كل موجود وما تقدمه من الموجودات المنتظمة غير أنها ليست على ما نجده بين ظواهر الموجودات بحسب العادة. So there is a causality, there is a real link between everything and the prerequisites of that, but maybe not familiar to us. Allah knows in His knowledge that in addition, for example, to having the normal way for having rain, there are other ways for having rain. So causality is there, but He can use different causes. But all these causes which directly are connected, not the far. Those which are directly connected, mubashir, they must be material.
Imagine if, for example, after 10,000 years, people can find that if we mix two material, this person outcome. For example, if you put these two things together.
We will talk about this. This is one point that we will talk, that it's not a matter of just not knowing at this time and later we may know. It's more than that. No. There's a difference. We will talk about that. Oh.
Maybe you want to start fire, yes, maybe without anything, taking some food and fire, but water, how could be possible? Fire,
What is wrong with that?
actually, it's against the natural law.
It's not against. It's just not familiar to you. Indeed, from water you can even make bombs. You can make explosive, material. Yeah. If you know how to use, you can even use water instead of petrol. Scientifically, it's possible, but technologically, it's not.
Maybe we have
Yes. No. No. You can. No. You can change it in a chemical process and then divide it into different atoms, and oxygen, hydrogen, both can, be explosive. So you shouldn't think that because we normally don't use water for example, putting on fire, so therefore it's not possible. Why do you say it didn't change?
Yes.
You see water and then you see fire, but you don't know what process has happened.
No, if you separate the oxygen and hydrogen, yes, it can be some kind of bomb.
Okay.
But what about the water?
Okay, so maybe it's separated. Or maybe there are many other ways that we have not yet realized. You cannot say because this is not familiar to us, so it's impossible. You can say this is not normal. Okay. We want to be actually not normal. We want it to be extraordinary. Impossible is something that you can prove to be impossible. Is it impossible that a person can fly? No. It's not.
Can you give an example for impossibility?
Impossibility is something that you can prove that leads to contradiction.
This is definition.
Yeah. For example, to have.
To put
Yes. Or for example, something having two opposite qualities at the same time. This is impossible. Otherwise, for example, tayyul arz. One person from this location goes to another location. Is it impossible? No. If someone goes flies, is it possible? So Mi'raj is impossible? It's not impossible. Those who say it's impossible, they must prove that it is impossible. And it's very difficult. Hardly you can prove something is impossible. One problem with the people who didn't believe in resurrection was that they thought it's impossible. أَنَّا يُحْيِي اللَّهُ هَذِهِ بَعْدَ مَوْتَهَا. But it's not impossible. قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. So you must distinguish between something being not familiar to you and something being impossible. A person may say it's impossible to put someone in fire without a special dress and being safe. But it's not impossible. Yeah. Oh, that is adat. This is the normal. This is ordinary. We have ordinary cause and we have extraordinary cause. Why? قُلْنَا يَا نَارْ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Is this ordinary? This is not ordinary. How many people have been to this condition? Or having a child without father. Is it ordinary? No. Is it ordinary? No. It's not ordinary. But is it impossible? No. So it's neither impossible nor ordinary. It's possible but extraordinary. We can have alternative causes. There is no problem. You can have alternative causes. For example, if you want heat here, we can have fire, we can have electric, heater. We can use, some light. There are many things that we can use to have heat here.
Laser.
Even complete cause can be alternative. Can be alternative. What is not possible? What is not possible is tawarudul illatain ala ma'lulin wahid. This is not possible. To have at the same time two causes, alternative causes for one thing. This is impossible. But one of them replacing the other, that's not a problem. It's possible. No. No. Different in what? Different in number or different in nature? No, why? Heat is heat. Why? It's another in number, not in nature. Heat is heat. No, there is no relation. No, there is no exclusive relation. So if something has alternative causes, so can be the same nature, like heat. Heat has its own definition. Heat is heat. Okay, you can scientifically define heat according to the motion of the molecules.
But we can
no matter whether it is caused by electricity or by petrol or by burning coal or whatever, the heat is heat. Yes, in number they are different. So this heat is different from that one, but even this difference in number can happen with the same cause. So if today I cause heat by heater and tomorrow I use the same heater, that is another heat. But this is just difference in number, not in nature.
Because you say that the effect should be there when there is a cause. Okay, there is a cause for it. So we should have simultaneous cause and effect at the same time.
Okay.
Okay, so when we have an effect here, so the cause which is related to this effect will be there.
Okay.
Okay, so but what about the other effect or other causes? We say that
So if one thing can have alternative causes, so one of them must be there, not all of them. So if A can have a multiple choice of causes, so there are alternative causes. So when A is there, one of them must be there. Which one? I don't know. I have to find out. This effect can be for cause B or cause C or cause D. One of them should be there. But which one? You have to discover which one. When you see there is, for example, wet road. The road is wet. It can be because of rain. It can be because someone has been washing. It can be because, for example, a tank of water, was, for example, broken and water. So there can be different causes. Yeah, the idea is correct, but not in this purpose. So there is a relation between effect and cause, and that is why I say the nature. So those multiple causes, they all have some kind of relation with this effect. There must be a kind of proportionateness, but not that everyone must have an effect from different nature. So if you look at electric heater, oil heater, coal heater, there is a relation, there is a senkhiyat, there is a kind of proportionate between the heater and heat. But this doesn't mean that the heat is different. Nature doesn't have types. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. You cannot say there is tashkik between this heat and that heat. It's not necessary. It can be the same level of heat. I don't know which one was first. Maybe. It's not very easy. You can answer, but it needs lots of experiments. So you have to, for example, make sure that whenever this is there, that is there. If it is not there yet, then you must find an obstacle. So after lots of experiments, you can realize that there is a link between these two. But causality, this is a very important point. Causality is something that you cannot understand directly, because causality is an abstract concept. This is why, some people denied even causality, because they said, we cannot find causality. We see fire and heat, but we don't see anything in between. There is a good point here, but they have gone, to extremes. The good point is that, yes, causality is not an, being which is independent. So you have to study fire, you have to study heat, And after experiment and study, you realize that there is an existential relation between fire and heat. Not that the fire is the complete cause, but at least it is incomplete cause. But sometimes, as I said, it's not easy, because it just can be because these two come together, but they are both effects of another cause. So you think this is the cause, but this is not the cause. This itself is effect. So it's not very easy, but this is what we do in science. In science, we can find out what is the... Indeed, this is the meaning of explanation. In philosophy of science, when they say explanation, it means that you have to find out the cause. Without reference to the cause, you cannot explain any phenomenon. When it said explain something, so you have to refer to the cause. What is your question? Mm-hmm. Your question is it possible to say man is a rational animal? What is the problem? It's not irrational. It's not rational, because irrational means to be able to be rational and then act irrational. So we have different types of animals. Some animals don't think. Some can think. A human being who cannot think or can think. The ability is important, not the actual thinking. The ability to think is important. Maybe there is a person who doesn't think, but still he's a human being, and therefore he's responsible. You can blame him if he does something wrong. You can tell him why you don't think, but you don't blame an animal. So the difference between an animal that doesn't think and a human being that doesn't think is a lot. Animal doesn't think, okay, we don't expect. A human being doesn't think, this is bad. How? How he cannot think? No, because this is essential quality of human being. When you don't have this essential, that you don't have human being. It's like water without oxygen. No, it's different. You cannot have water without oxygen, but you can have fire without burning. That's different. It's completely different. It's a good question, but better answer. In the case of nature, when you have a nature, mahiyat, quiddity, if part of nature is missing, the nature is not there. You cannot say, it's a miracle. We have water without oxygen. If there is no oxygen, then there is no water. It's another liquid. It looks like water. Or you can not say, for example, we have human being without being not or rational. But you can have fire without burning, because burning is not essential for fire. Burning is an action that can be produced by fire when there is no obstacle. There's ikhtiza. It's not zati, it's not essential. Thank you for the question. I haven't found a proof. I haven't found here. I ask you to read yourself also, but as far as I see, there is no proof that why there must be always a material cause. Maybe unfamiliar, but must be material. I didn't see any proof here. But you study, perhaps you find. This is not my view. This is Allama's view. I haven't yet said my view. But Allama is insisting on this. That must be a material cause, which is not familiar, perhaps. And he mentions many verses also here. But these verses are not expressly saying this. It's Zahir. And so... No, I think this is based on his philosophical position. So in his philosophy, he has reached this point. So he didn't want to mention all the details from philosophy. But this is his firm philosophical position. And this is a strong position. And inshallah, later perhaps we can discuss about to what extent we can agree. So it's not something weak. It's very important, very strong, but perhaps with a little modification. Yes. Sure. Yes. Why?
Yeah. Apart from the,
No. Why? This is the question. Why?
there's no argument.
So you are Mu'ayyad.
No. I have a question from Al-Mizan that you are explaining his view.
No. So you accept that there is no proof here.
There's no proof.
Okay.
There's no proof. My question is that apart from the first cause, that we talked about in the last session, what was the first cause?
What do you mean by first cause?
First material causing the world.
Because when philosophers say first cause is different, you mean this lower cause.
First material being.
First comes from. So you mean the lowest. You mean the lowest.
Yeah, in material thing.
Okay.
First material thing.
Okay.
We talked about this in the last session. I'm not going to talk about that.
Thank you.
And the next question is that focusing on the cases like, for example, Salat al-Istisqa.
Okay.
Imam al-Salam said the Salat al-Istisqa, and after that there was a rain.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Did the rain came without cloud or there was a cloud?
There was a cloud, of course.
Okay.
Okay. But for sure we know that if there was no Salat al-Istisqa by Imam,
Okay.
there were none. My question is that what was the role of this Salat in this chain of code? Of course there was a code, but what was the cause of this? If there was no Salat, there was no code.
So prayer is effective, but at the end, prayer must lead to something material that can produce rain.
So prayer should be the
like for example, you can pray for success in your business. But how Allah make you successful in your business? For example, Allah sends customers to your shop. Or you can buy something in good price, or the price goes high. Not that, without knowing anything, there is money in your account. This money has come from ghaib to your account. This is not the way it works. Allah uses material ways, but maybe unexpected to you. So, for example, a person that you didn't expect comes and buys lots of things from you. So,
if you say that Allah made a bunch of, for example, clouds to rain, you mean that Al-Mizan, which is abstract, part in material world, which you cannot say.
Through a chain.
Through what chain?
A chain which is not familiar to us. When normally rains, is Allah the cause or not?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain all the way through? No.
You
only can explain a little bit. You don't know everything that has occurred between Allah and the rain. In the same case, when it's miracle, I cannot explain everything. I don't know how many angels are involved, how many stations are there. But I know that at the end, there must be something material. And also, I know that everything is attributed to Allah. How many things are in between, I don't know.
according to Allah himself cannot interfere in material change. And here
Not that he cannot.
he does not.
It's not something possible. Not that Allah doesn't have power.
No, it's possible. He does not. But Allah means that he is.
No. According to him, for this material thing to be directly connected to God, it's impossible because there is qadi imkana ashraf. So something so low like this rain cannot be directly from God.
Okay. Anyway, and why Allah does not or can or
This
it
is
impossible.
This is not
This is
possible.
impossible.
Okay.
But here for sure we know there is a role. This brain which is abstract.
Okay.
Brain of Imam which is abstract is the cause of this change. Whatever you say.
Yeah, but not something which is directly connected. Even that prayer goes to a system and finally there is a cloud and then there is a rain.
Wherever it goes, it should affect on material things.
Yeah, but in a chain. We don't have problem with this. The only thing is that finally it must be translated into a material thing.
What is the interval? What is the exact interval that this prayer affects on that? And that effect causes this.
I don't need to know the details. I know that the prayer is effective and this prayer has through some way led to having cloud, which was unexpected. There was no cloud. There was no prediction of having rain. That prayer led to that. How did that prayer led to that? I don't know. And we don't need to know. How Prophet Isa alayhi salam revived that dead person, I don't know.
I'm not asking you to show me that cause or that effect. I'm asking you there is
You don't ask me to show, but you ask me to name. You say, tell me. I cannot tell you.
And it is not necessary to be able to tell.
Excuse me, can you say that the example of prayer is like electricity, which is not used, but it produces heat,
Yeah.
etc. Okay? You can say that the prayer is life, right? Or something,
But prayer is not material.
yes.
Prayer is not material. But I'm saying that even for the things which are material and happening all the time, still we don't have explanation. For example, how life is produced. We don't know. Still we don't know the normal life, how is it produced. How can, for example, we have a human being? We don't know.
What is the problem? Because I cannot understand.
Okay.
For example,
Maybe
the prayer, what is the contradiction?
In
We pray and
simple
there's a-
sentence, yes. We have an immaterial thing, which is prayer, affected on a chain of causes which are material. I'm asking this, what is the interval here?
If you believe in metaphysics, it is so.
What?
If you believe in metaphysics, if you
But
believe
according to Allah, no, there is no immaterial thing which we can affect on immaterial thing.
No.
Does this?
No.
But the hardest, yeah.
So your problem
No.
here maybe.
He doesn't say it like this. He says that for something which happens in the surface of the material world, the immediate cause must be also material. But it finally will end with Allah who is not material, or angels who are not material.
What you understand from this? بعبارة أخرى يثبت لكل حادث مادي مستمر في الجيل.
Hadith and Madi means on the surface, something very low.
Yes.
Okay?
مجرا ماديا وطريقا طبيعيا.
Okay. But then the whole material world is under immaterial causal system.
The cause of the
But we
problem.
have lots of examples of this. Such as that God will remove the form of the elders in moment.
Okay?
There is no any power or feeling, no material, no
How do you say that? Why do you think that it was not through a material?
Some short kind of comments of
No. So the question is, did that throne of Belghis move physically from that place to Suleiman's court, or didn't move physically? Okay, so it moved physically. So there must be a physical motion. So it means that it didn't leave her place and then disappeared and appeared, like in some films, for example, something is here, then disappears, and then again it's created. It was not like this. It moved. So definitely must have gone all the way through, but very fast. Not that it, stopped existence there and then again became existent here. So there can be a physical explanation for it. Like Teolas. I see your concern, but the way you are arguing is not proving anything. You are just surprised. But you cannot prove, that Allah is wrong.
And this argument is based on the way that we know all the natural rules.
Yeah.
This is not natural.
And we don't know.
Yeah, why we don't know many natural.
We don't know. We cannot say, I know everything, therefore this is not definitely material or physical. It's not a real line. You can imagine a line, okay.
The lowest level of immaterial world affects the highest level of material world.
No. Affects, it's the vice versa. The lowest is just effect, not cause.
No, the lowest level of the
Immaterial.
world, world influences the highest level of material world. Okay?
Perhaps.
So,
It's not necessarily like this, but perhaps.
okay, so I'm talking about this and impact or this influence. How can we take care of it?
Your model is not the model that I accept. That something immaterial affects something material. The whole material world is under one immaterial cause. So everything in this material world is not directly affected by that one. The whole world is affected by that one. That concept of aql fa'al. So aql fa'al is not dealing with every particular thing that happens in this world. The whole material world is under aql fa'al. So your model must be changed.
Okay, so there is an influence. You should explain this influence.
There is definitely there is a causality.
I'm saying that
It's difficult, yes. It doesn't need to be easy.
okay, so
One of the most important questions in philosophy is the question of the relation between Hadith and Qadim. It's one of the most difficult questions.
So if we accept this that is influence, okay, so we can say that any immaterial cause can influence material.
You didn't pay attention to my point. Yeah, the whole system, not something inside. This is a very important thing, This is result of few years of study.
Moment is right. Sometimes it goes to the level of religion. Because really, whenever we ask, they say, okay, later, or later. They ask
I am not of the idea that you can prove rationally that there are 10.
Whatever.
I mean,
We cannot fix number by rational argument. What we can understand is there must be some levels. How many, we don't know. And I don't think, those who have mentioned 10, they are able to prove that there must be 10. Many of the Mashai people, Peripatetics. Yeah, so what we understand is that there must be a channel through which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends His mercy. Okay? And this starts from the highest levels of creation, which is the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, goes down to the lowest. And certain level is for the material things, and above that is for the immaterial things. But how many sub-levels are there? I don't think we can prove. There is no way to prove this rationally. At least we have two universes, material universe and immaterial universe. And some philosophers have tried also to say that in the immaterial we have also two, alam misal and alam aql, which is possible to argue. But not more than that. More than that is very difficult to say how many levels exactly are there, or how many intellects are there. I don't think it's possible to be proved, and I don't think it's necessary to discuss about this, because something that we cannot argue rationally, decisively, then it becomes a matter of guessing and suspicion, I mean, suspicion in the sense of goman. So I don't think this is necessary, and therefore you don't see this is stressed on in the Quran. In the Quran you don't find such thing, receiving attention. That is there aql fa'al, or 10 aql, or aflaq, in this kind of things that the philosophers say.
So what is the best? What can I say? Justification of what for example, the person who is a materialist completely.
Yeah. The best thing is to prove for him that the whole world is not just material world. There are things in this world which are not material. Like, we talked about a spirit. Human spirit is not material. Human knowledge is not material. This is the best thing. No, if someone is just materialist, he doesn't accept that there is immaterial. So you have to first prove that there is something immaterial, and then you say that there is a connection between immaterial and material. We don't have isolated worlds. One, for example, part of the world is material, another is immaterial, and then no connection. No, they are interconnected. The whole material.
The whole material thing. It must be stuck on some place. Again.
Why?
Because if it is material, it can't be general.
Why? There is a material world. There is a material world, and all material world together is under one immaterial cause. It's not?
This is an abstract thing. The relation of whole material thing.
Okay.
This is an abstract. You can't find it in the whole abstract.
You cannot find it in the material world.
Yeah, in the material world.
Of course, because this is above material world. Inside the material world, you cannot find the cause of the material world. It must be outside.
But they are taking place in the material outside the material. So it can't be universal outside.
To help you, you can imagine this in your mind. Imagine in your mind a building. Did you imagine? Okay. Did you make different parts of the building gradually? You built all building together. So all building together is your effect, ma'lum. You don't deal with then why this, for example, second floor is on the first floor? Why? Do you put it there? No, this is a very important example. This helps you a lot. You imagine the whole building, okay, 10th floor, all together. But why the second floor is not collapsing? Are you keeping it there? No, it's because of the first floor. So it's the first floor that is keeping the second floor, not you. Yes, in a sense, finally you, but not directly. You have created the whole system, but the system is keeping itself together. You imagine a car which is going fast. Why it's going fast? Because it has an engine. It has tires. You don't need to do all things together, You create one thing and then it's working. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He creates the system. He doesn't need to do everything, slowly or little by little or one by one. The system must be able to maintain itself. Like the building that can maintain itself. Does but
for example, in some cases we say that Allah made houses to go fast and finally reach to the effect very fast. Can we say in all that this
yeah, maybe. There is no reason why it has to be only one. But at the end, finally, all goes back to the principle that we mentioned, that at the end there must be a material cause involved. But this is the main principle that Al-Mizan says. But is it a matter of speeding up or, bringing new things? That's another issue. Yeah, there can be different possibilities. The principle is there. Allah says will of God is always there, but will of God exercises through some material cause or procedure. And we will talk about this again. Again, prayer of istisqa finally is through a cloud. No problem. No problem. We talk about this. He himself says it can be miracle, it can be magic, it can be many things. It can be like, the actions of the ascetics, murtaz. But finally must be through a physical, material cause, finally. So, Al-Mizan says, this point that there is a real relation between everything and the prerequisites is something that you can understand from the verses about Qadr. وَإِن مِّن, or, Qadr and Qadar, they are the same. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا عِندَنَا خَزَائِنُهُ وَمَا نُنَزِّلُهُ إِلَّا بِقَدْرٍ. إِنَّا كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَاهُ بِقَدَرٍ وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ فَقَدَّرَهُ تَقْدِيرًا. And many verses like this that Allah says this shows that the things go through a procedure. They start from the treasure of God, which has no limit, restriction, but then it gradually is defined and measured. So before something is created or something comes to existence, everything must be measured and decided. So in this physical world, you cannot have something without measure. Everything is with measure. Okay? So he says, فَإِنَّ الْآيَةِ.
But it doesn't deny the stuff to be something which is not physical.
No, so he says, he wants to say, of course, as I said, this is just ma'na zahiri, but he wants to say that, so these measures are all material, because these are measures of the material things. He says, فَإِنَّ الآية الأولى وكذا بقية الآيات تدل على أن الأشياء تنزل من ساحة الإطلاق إلى مرحلة التعين والتشخص بتقدير منه تعالى وتحديد يتقدم على شيء. So everything must be measured and decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ولا معنى لكون الشيء محدودا مقدرا في وجوده إلا أن يتحدد ويتعين بجميع روابطه التي مع سائر الموجودات. And this is very important. موجود المادي مرتبط بمجموعة من الموجودات المادية الأخرى. So when everything is decided and measured, so it means that Allah has decided that through what material cause this must be created. And through what material procedure this must come. So when this rain is coming, it's decided that what is going to produce this rain. This is what he says. Also he says, we can argue from these verses. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And then the verse مَا مِن دَابَّةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ آخِذٌ بِالنَّاصِيَتِهَا إِنَّ رَبِّي عَلَى الصِّرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. Allah says, when we put these two verses together, then we can say that the first ayah which says ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ explains that everything is created by God. Okay? But when Allah says إِنَّ رَبِّي عَلَى الصِّرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ, it means that Allah has a normal, single way of doing things. He says, الآية الثانية تكون بكون الخلق والإيجاد على وتيرة واحدة. صراط المستقيم. So he's explaining that when he says Allah is ala صراط المستقيم, he wants to say that, so Allah does things in a single way. And that is through the material process. So the conclusion is that we accept causality. There is causality in everything, and also that the whole system is under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but for the material things, Allah does the creation through the material things. Yeah. Because the whole world is connected, interconnected, so the change in one thing changes everything. If I put my book from this place to this place, the whole world has changed. No, this is the idea of philosophers, you know. But this doesn't mean that the rules of nature have changed or the knowledge has changed. But otherwise, this is clear that when I put this, everything is changed. Because there is a connection. If you do something good or you do something bad, you affect the whole world.
But on the contrary, you say that maybe there is some event on the other side of the world, but here, but they don't know influence the things in
Can you prove that there is no influence, or you just don't feel? We cannot feel, but
the rationally don't argue.
why? When everything is connected,
There is no connection, we don't see the connection.
there is no futur, there is no separation, there is no gap. So when you change something, everything is changed.
So if someone laughs, okay, if it can create something, material on the other side of the world.
It can be, not necessarily, because the amount of change is important. Sometimes it is so tiny. For example, if I have a good even thought in my mind, for example, if here I pray for people in another country, just pray and wish them good, this can have some effect. How much, I don't know, it depends on my power, but definitely it has an effect. So if there are people who wish good or wish bad, it has some effect. Or if people are pious or impious, it has some effect. If the person who, for example, makes bread has wuzu or not wuzu, it has effect on the bread and it has effect on the people who eat that bread. You cannot say, I don't see any change. The change may not be something that we notice, but the change can be there. Perhaps from this ayah also you can say, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. Means what people do can affect oceans. Yeah?
Different from ظهر الفساد.
بما كسبت أيدي الناس. So what people do, they don't do it in ocean. They do it in their town. But can change the oceans. And the being animals in the ocean. في البر والبحر. The whole world is affected.
For example, I think that fishes in the sea, they say dua for their father who ate. Maybe there is some effect on it.
So, can we rationally argue that the change of the position of these four can have an effect on people's businesses and such as?
Maybe we are not able to prove that, but there is nothing to disprove that also, and therefore we refer to the revealed sources, to the hadith, but this is not something that if you don't accept, or if you accept, necessarily makes a big difference in someone's faith. So it's not one of the things that everyone must accept. But I personally think that there is an effect for everything good or bad that we do. It has an effect not only on ourselves but on also other people. And I also believe, but not 100%, but this is my, kind of not 100%, but maybe 90% idea that if we do something to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the whole universe will respect and will love us and will help us. And if we disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the whole universe becomes against us. Because they are absolutely servant of God. We human beings are or not. But they are glorifying Allah, praising Allah under His absolute, provision. So, a person who is pious, everything loves him and wants to help him. Angels pray for him. A person who is bad, everything is against him. This is my 90% belief. I'm not saying 100%, but this is my idea. And I think you can bring some hadith and verses. Maybe it's zahiri, so it's not 100%, but I think this is something that you can argue. When you are, for example, if you are in a, for example, family, if you love the head of that family, every member of family would respect you and would love you. If you hate, they hate you.
And then the fact of being against someone, it depends on the tradition and the of the will of. It depends on the will of Allah and the way it should be, faced. And sometimes the fact of being against one person is like imhan. It is not always something against in appearance.
No, it's against, but
it's against,
but it can be different ways.
In different ways.
It's not, for example, when the world is against you, then you become poor. Maybe you become very rich. Maybe you become poor. So it has different policies. But the world is against you. The angels are against you. Yeah?
But sometimes
what I said.
Yeah.
But sometimes
When they are against you. Yeah, when they are against you,
Right.
then you may become very rich, very powerful, very like Pharaoh, for example, like Qarun. So it's not very simplistic view that, okay, they are against you, so you suffer. No, sometimes, indeed, sometimes when you are loved, maybe you suffer. Yeah?
The way
what's the benefit of this argument? If everything is against us, but you are poor, but you are in suffering, or something like this, or you are rich, but you are
Because your real interest is important. Your real interest, not just to enjoy yourself. The real interest can be in being rich or poor, being known or unknown, or being ill or not. Sometimes it's better for you if you are ill. Sometimes it's better for you if you lose your dear children, and so indeed we have many hadiths which indicate that the people who are very close to Allah, they should be prepared for more suffering. أشد الناس بلاءً الأنبياء ثم الأمثل فالأمثل. This doesn't mean that Allah doesn't love them. No, indeed, because He loves them, so perhaps there are things. There is a beautiful hadith that says something like this: that sometimes a servant of Allah has a position in the knowledge of Allah, and he cannot reach through his actions. And Allah helps him to reach that by suffering. So it's possible that sometimes your actions are not giving you enough to reach that position. Then it's through suffering that you reach that position. Yeah.
What's the meaning of it against everything against us or
Against your interests. Suffering is not an action. Suffering is a condition, means the patience that you have to have through suffering. It's not something you do. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. What is your question? What does it mean, moral corruption in ocean? It must be natural. It's like, the idea of allama. When you are talking about something material, so that also must be material. You cannot say this ocean is morally corrupt. Yeah, but at the end, there must be some problem here. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. There must be a problem here. It's not just in me. There must also be some impact on them. No, they are against you because you have made them fasid, you have made them corrupt, so they become against you. You have not respected them. Yeah? If I waste, for example, a drinking water which can be drunk, I waste it. So that water can blame me on the day of judgment, can say to Allah, this has wasted me. Or for example, if there is an animal and we don't slaughter that animal and the animal is just dead. Okay? So it's wasted. This wastage is something that I am accountable for. You cannot say it's animal, it's not important. No, it's important. So what we do can have bad impacts on them, and therefore they become against us. It's moral, but not always moral. It must somehow, as you see, wasted, it's dead. Or the water is wasted. So this is something physical. For me it's moral, but for them must be something physical. You cannot say water is morally corrupted. Water never gets morally corrupted. So when you waste, for example, water or make it polluted or dirty, this is corruption. But you have morally done this. But for them it is physically. So this is the point. Okay. There is one point which is not very much, in need of time. So I say this quickly and we leave the rest for next session. Which question? Okay, it comes. It comes. What you said, it's a question which comes about the science. It comes. Question number 6. We are still in 2. So I want to say 3. It comes. That's number 6. Number 3, the point 3 is that all the material causes are attributed finally to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not that they are independent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Quran yusnidu ma usnida illa al-illat al-madiyya ila Allah ta'ala. So even when there are material causes, at the end it is attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they are not independent. Allah says, أن الأسباب الوجودية غير مستقلة في التأثير. They are not independent. والمؤثر الحقيقي بتمام معنى الكلمة. The one who is really independently in charge and can have influence is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ألا له الخلق والأمر لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض له ملك السماوات والأرض قل كل من عند الله. So there are many verses in the Quran which says that everything is owned by Allah, everything belongs to Allah, everything is under control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the other things have some impact but under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you say they don't have any impact, like Asha'ira, this is wrong. If you say they have some impact, independent is also wrong. Allah has defined some role for them, but everything is under Allah. So they cannot say, now we want to forget Allah and we are independent. We take over. It's impossible. Therefore, you find that in the Quran, in many cases, Allah says, بِإِذْنِهِ or مِنْ بَعْدِ إِذْنِهِ. ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى عَلَى الْعَرْشِ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ مَا مِنْ شَفِيٍّ إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ إِذْنِهِ. or لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. And also about miracles of the prophets, we will talk later, that although the prophets have some role, but again must be بِإِذْنِهِ. So, every cause which is influential is under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is not independent. And the concept of izn and shafa'a are also important here. And Allah says shafa'a and izn show that they are not independent. They are effective but not independent. And he says, this is an important point for next week, inshallah. But remember this. من المعلوم أن الإذن أنما يستقيم معناه إذا كان هناك مانع من تصرف المعذون فيه. It's a very important point. When you say Allah should permit, or there must be a leave from Allah, what does it mean? It means that this leave can stop, but that must be by itself effective. So there is muqtazi, but Allah can stop it. Of course, the muqtazi is also created by Allah, but it means that that is influential. Otherwise, you cannot say bi'iznillah. You have to say biquwwatillah. Yeah? Which is true, of course, because again, that is created by Allah. But bi'iznillah emphasizes on Allah being able to stop, to create obstacle. But if you say biquwwatillah, it refers to the muqtazi. So, من المعلوم أن الإذن أنما يستقيم معناه إذا كان هناك مانع من تصرف المعزون فيه والمانع إذن إنما يتصرف فيما كان هناك مقتزن. If there is no muqtazi, there is no point about talking mane. Okay? So, it said that a person went to visit one of ulama and he said, if there is no mane, there is no obstacle, I want to come to your house. He said, there is no mane, but there is no muqtazi also. So, if we say bi'iznillah, means that there is such a ability for them, yes, to have some impact, some influence, but Allah can stop. So we finish point 3, and inshallah we will continue with point 4. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.